people ask you all the time, you know, hey, why do you fight? Like, what do you get out of fighting? And the huge enjoyment for me is that moment after your opponent taps out, you get your hand raised, that feeling, like no drug, no amount of alcohol, no amount of, you know, sugar or whatever it is that's your vice, nothing feels better than winning an MMA fight. And the higher the level that you win, the better it feels. You start by winning your amateur fights, then you win pro fights, then you win big show fights, then you win UFC fights. Ever since I felt that very first feeling in my first amateur fight, I thought, man, this is amazing. I want to chase this feeling at its intensest point. And there's no greater feeling than being a world champion. Even if I was world champion for one night, that feeling would make everything that I've gone through worth it. My name is Grant Dawson. My record is 15-1, and I fight for Glory MMA and Fitness. Man, it was a pretty basic childhood, you know, mom and dad in a small town. I was homeschooled for a lot of my life, and then I got into public school when I hit high school and started doing sports in high school. Once I graduated high school, I moved to a bigger town to start doing MMA. I started training MMA when I was 15, just like in the backyard with my friends, watching the YouTube videos, doing all that kind of stuff. And we did backyard fights. Every Tuesday night I was 22-0 in the backyard, had a duct tape belt and the whole 9 yards. My friends eventually wanted to stop doing it, so I decided I needed to go to an actual gym. Went to an actual gym, started training for about a year. After a year of training, my coach came to me and said, hey, do you want to fight? I said yes. We had that fight, and it's been smooth sailing ever since. I was 9-1 as an amateur, and I was about to make my pro debut. And my manager at the time called me and said, hey, after this fight, would you like to move up to Lee Summit, Missouri and train with James Krause in a fighter house? So I got in my car, I came up here just to kind of check it out for a week. I was here for, I think, 2 days, decided I loved it, went back, won my fight, came here, and I've been here under James ever since.
What's a fighter house?
A fighter house is basically when you have a house and a bunch of guys from out of town come and stay there, whether they move there or they're just staying there for their camps. We're all into one house. We had a 3-bedroom house with 12 people in it. I slept under a pool table for my first month of training here, but it was all worth it.
Like the Ultimate Fighter without the cameras.
Oh no, that's a beautiful house with with lots of space. We had no space. My room didn't have a door when I finally got a room. And I was the only person in the house with a girlfriend at the time, so you can imagine that was annoying. So one of my teammates actually was going to be on the Contender series, and that's how I heard about it at first. I was like, what is it? Like, is it like Dana White looking for a fight? And they were kind of like, yeah, it is, but it's one place. It's their show. It's not like a show that Dana goes to. And if he likes you, he gives you a contract. If he doesn't like you, you're gone. And my teammate ended up getting injured and not being able to compete on it, but that's how I heard about it. And then the next season came along, and it was such a blast. You know, so many fighters got signed. We knew that was going to be a viable option. Ended up getting the call to take a short notice replacement on the Contender series, made weight in 3 weeks, fought, won, got the contract.
Yeah. Did you feel confident after the win that the contract was in the bag?
Yeah, I feel like my performance, I landed the most punches out of everybody. And I was like one of 2 finishes. You know, there were 5 fights on the card and 2 finishes, and I was the only other finish. So I was pretty confident that I was going to get the nod. I also think that my fight wasn't close. I dominated the guy from the beginning of the round until the end of the fight. So going into the back, I was pretty sure that I was going to get the call. You know, I wasn't very nervous for my first UFC fight. I was fighting a guy coming off of 2 losses. I really felt like I was the better fighter, and it ended up being the toughest fight that I've had in the UFC or at all. You know, Julian is a really, really tough guy. He doesn't get tired. He doesn't get discouraged. He's got good jiu-jitsu and good boxing. So it actually ended up being a much tougher fight than I thought it was going to be, and to this day it's still one of my toughest fights in my whole career. So my coach always says, you know, MMA brings out the highest highs and the lowest lows, and that's so true. You know, one minute you're on top of the world, you've just won this amazing fight, and then you get pitted up against this guy that you're supposed to knock out of the park, and something goes wrong, and then it's so hard to see past that. It's so hard to see that you'll get another chance or that there will be another fight. But when you blow it like that, you just feel like the whole world's coming down on top of you. But the higher the risk, the higher the reward, you know. winning wouldn't feel so good if losing didn't feel so crappy.